Yeah.
but I don't know. We don't know.
I got the pay too.
Yeah, that's why I handle the door handle.
All right, thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. First, as always, I want to thank Maureen 7-Eleven for the refreshments today.
Yes, thank you, Maureen.
We're going to start today a little bit differently. We have Mr. Donnelly here. We'd like to say a few words before we get into our regular routine.
Thank you, Inspector. So just for those that don't know, my name is Tom Donnelly. I'm one of the legislators that represents the 2nd Precinct area. So generally, the community meeting is usually when the legislature is in session. We have committee meetings, but we don't have committee meetings today because today's election day. So I just wanted to come by and I asked the inspector if I could just take a couple minutes up front to kind of just talk a little bit about the governor's criminal justice reform package. I don't know if you read about it in the paper, or if you've seen it on TV, or if you heard about it, and just kind of tell you a little bit about what we're doing locally. So back in the early part of the year, the governor and his staff put forward a whole series of like sweeping criminal justice reform changes, basically like an unfunded mandate that trickles down into all the local municipalities, the counties, the villages, the towns, and it affects a whole array of criminal justice issues, including bail reform. So I chair the county's Public Safety Committee, so this has been on our radar for a little while right now, and however well-intentioned it may have been, it was very, very ill-conceived and not thought out very, very well. And then there's a whole logistical component to this that's really just like a nightmare. So besides law enforcement, there's the Association of the District Attorneys in the state. Many local officials are putting tremendous pressure on the governor and his staff to try and pull this back a little bit, because nobody's set up for it. No county in this state is set up for this to take effect on January 1st. But what we have done on our end is we just did our operating budget. So we had met with the district attorney some months back to try and get an idea of what he was going to need, and he's been talking about a lot, our district attorney. So we're adding a whole slew of assistant district attorney positions. We're beefing up his staff by almost like 60, and essentially the district attorney is going to have, similar to law enforcement, is going to have an assistant district attorney, probably more than one, on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, so that when the law enforcement folks make an arrest, the district attorney can come, the assistant district attorney can get right out to the precinct to go over the case. Because if I tell you it's scary, it's scary. Some of the reforms that they're talking about, that the desk officer upstairs is going to have to release somebody who's charged with a pretty serious crime. And it's, quite frankly, it's pretty frightening. I think these fellows agree with it. So that's part one. That's part one in the DA's office. Part two is that there's going to be many folks in the county facility, our county facilities. There's 2 county correctional facilities that Suffolk has complete control of. One is in Yaphank, the other is in Riverhead. There's going to be a fair amount of discharges from those facilities. So right now, again, as part of our role having oversight, is we've added a bunch of positions within the sheriff's office, particularly what they call criminal identification technicians. And what these folks do, they're kind of like, they're like research kind of people, but they're really part of the anti-gang effort. And it's to identify those folks that may be troubled when they do leave, so that at least we have an idea of the folks that are being released, who's actually out there, right? So that's the other part. And then we're adding 2 more, again, in the sheriff's facilities. It should be several in each of the facilities, like research people, to track who's actually leaving the facility, if that makes sense to you. Because probation is going to have a role in that, but the correctional system itself, Sheriff Toulon, he actually has the ability, through his office, as folks leave, that they kind of, for lack of a, fancy word of saying, they can keep tabs on some of these people that are gonna be out in our community. So there's a whole lot of concerns. And then even further down the road is it's gonna affect our division of social services. So we're trying to beef up some of that so that the family networks of both victims, most importantly, are gonna be able to get the support that they need from the county. So, rest assured, we're on it. I don't wanna paint a rosy picture, because it's not, but I don't want to put widespread fear and panic in everybody's mind either, other than to say there's a lot of issues. We're working hard with the state delegation across Long Island to kind of get some of this stuff pulled back. So, yes.
Is there anything we can do as a community to voice our concerns about
Write letters
this?
and write more letters to the governor and keep applying pressure to the governor's office. Write as many letters as you want. So I'm working right now with another legislator who represents the South Fork. Her name is Bridget Fleming. Bridget has a background. She was an New York State Assistant Attorney General, and she's very frightened by this.
Wow.
Frankly.
Wow.
This is the message that we're getting. So the DA has a way of describing it. It's a seismic shift in criminal justice. It's a real kind of seismic shift. So we got to all kind of come together and just continue to exert as much pressure as we can, on the governor's office, particularly as it relates to the bail reform component and some of the discharges that we're looking at.
And what about the discovery reform too?
Yeah, so that's why we're having the extra DA folks on duty, which is really important, so that they can kind of try and mitigate that to the degree possible. It's scary, right? The list of witnesses that has to be, it's not, I'm a pretty fair-minded person, I think, and a pretty kind of low-key official, but I'm pretty tuned up about this whole thing. Like, it's really, really serious stuff. And I'm sure these folks here who do this for a living will tell you how concerned they are as well.
Hi, I'm a new program director at Samaritan Daytop in Huntington Station. That's why I'm here, but listening to this, if we can help at all, I'm sure anything having to do with drug or alcohol, they usually send to us for, evaluation or something.
Yeah, so what agency are you?
Saying no
Samaritan
battery.
Daytop Village.
Okay,
in
are you a
Huntington
contract
Station.
agency with the county or no?
We're
4
not
minutes, no
contracted,
battery.
but they send anybody on.
I'm going to give you my
probation.
contact info,
Yeah.
and we'll make sure that you're connected within the Division of Civil Services, because they have like their own command structure, so to speak, and the flow of information goes back and forth. Somebody else?
What's wrong with this thing?
No. That's it. I'm here. If you need me, if you want to jot down my cell phone number quick, you can give me a call.
You got it?
631-926-5226. And the office phone is 631-854-4433. And I thank the inspector for giving me a couple minutes. I very appreciate it.
Okay, we'll get started then with our
Let me get my cell phone out.
frozen.
Oh, we're all having technical problems today.
Okay, so the year-to-date numbers, roughly the same as last month. We're still up in assaults and vehicle theft, but we're not up as much as we were last month, but still up for the year. But you'll see next we're down for the month in those. Everything else has remained pretty steady. These are the monthly numbers. So you can see we're down 44% in assaults for the month and 54% for the month in vehicle theft. Everything else is roughly the same. We had a couple of burglaries, 2 burglaries. The resident came home and somebody was in the house. First one was on Backpedal Road in Dix Hills. 2 people were in the house. They both fled as soon as the homeowner returned. They weren't able to get anything. Got back in time. And then the second one was in East Northport. It was a mass mail in a house. Again, no proceeds because the homeowner interrupted the crime. We had a robbery. This was essentially a shoplifting that turned into a robbery. Somebody was shoplifting at one of the stores at the mall and fought with the security guard, so it turned into a robbery. The security guard was able to restrain the person, and he made the arrest. And then there was a robbery at Dairy Queen in East Northport. There were, it was a known person agreed to meet the victim, and when the victim got there, the known person and somebody else robbed him of his wallet, his phone, and a chain. We have the one person identified. We haven't been able to locate him yet, but we're working on the identification for the second suspect. We did have shots fired in Huntington Station last month. On the 13th, about 2:30 in the morning, on 2nd Street, there were shots fired and 2 vehicles in the front of a house, or in the driveway of a house, were struck. We're asking anybody who has any information on it to let us know. We don't have many leads right now. These are the arrests for the month. You can see 221. Those are, as a reminder, those are charges, not people. People can be charged with more than one charge, so it's not people arrested, but those are charges. 30 felonies, 7 were gang related, and 51 DWI related. 42 DWI. There were a couple search warrants done. These are 3 search warrants that were done in September. I didn't put them in last month's presentation because the case was still ongoing. Now it's not. All the arrests have been made, and so it was a county-wide investigation involving gun sales. 3 of the search warrants were done here in the 2nd precinct. 3 arrests were made. 73 guns were sold total, 13 of which were assault weapons.
Wow.